right, so good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you're joining us from, everyone. My name is Jesse, and I am with Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants. If you're joining us for the first time, and we do have a few groups joining us live and on YouTube for the very first time today, so welcome into you guys. We are all about bringing conservation, adventure, and science into classrooms around the world. And it has been so thrilling over the last month and a bit to highlight so many programs. Many of you may know February was the biggest month we've ever had. We did 80 programs in 1 month, which was madness. So we're taking a bit of a calmer break in March here, but we're still bringing some really amazing and insightful programs to you guys. So over the last 2 days, we've done exploring volcanoes around the world with George Karunas. And then yesterday, we learned about studying the brain with your smartphone with Tobias Hauser all the way in London. Today's program, though, is one that I have been looking forward to for some time now on a topic that we have never covered before here at Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants. You guys have been with us as we explore rhinos and gorillas, lions and tigers and bears, oh my, all these amazing creatures around the globe. But we've never had the chance to learn about the okapi, which is one of the most beautiful, enigmatic animals on this planet. Today, we are going to hear from Lucas Meers. He is the program officer at the Okapi Conservation Project. He's going to walk us through this amazing animal, where it lives, all the cool work being done to protect it around the globe and in its home in the West African rainforest, Central African rainforest too. So Lucas, without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to you. I cannot wait to get started, and I hope all our kids today are as excited as I am. Thank you so much, Lucas. Go for it.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Jesse. And I'm super excited to be here. I am one of the first timers joining you guys for Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants. I think this is a really cool program. I'm excited to be a part of it, and I'm excited to talk about Okapi to you guys. So without further ado, Jesse, if you can switch to my presentation, please.
We are all set. You're good to go, man. It's up.
Excellent, because I can't really see anyone right now. So I am going to talk to you about saving Okapi, the lost giants of the African rainforest. I like to tell everyone that I know or that I talk to about Okapi is that they're the coolest animals that you've never heard of. How many people that are watching raise your hand if you actually know what an okapi is or if you've seen one somewhere?
Ooh, we got a good mix. I mean, some of the kids, yes, some of the kids know.
Okay. Excellent. Well, so one thing that I've noticed is normally kids tend to know what okapi are, but adults typically don't know what okapi are. And so that's kind of like a dilemma, and one of the issues that we're facing is that not many people know about okapi. And so everyone in the Democratic Republic of Congo, where they're found, know what an okapi is, but most people outside of that country don't really know what okapi are. So they are the closest living relative to giraffe. Because they have stripes on their butts and their legs, people often think that they're related to zebras, but they're really more closely related to giraffes. And there's a few different features with okapi that kind of show that they're related to giraffes. They're commonly called the forest giraffe as a little bit of a nickname, or the African unicorn sometimes, because they're really elusive and no one really ever sees them in the wild. But so they're related to giraffes, and they have ossicones, just like giraffes, the horn-like structures on their heads. And so they are bony structures that are part of their skull that's covered with skin and fur. Only in giraffes, both the males and females have ossicones, but in okapi, it's only the males that have ossicones. And so that's an easy way to tell a male from a female okapi whenever you see them somewhere. The males have the horns and the females don't. It makes it a little bit easy. But they're only found in the dense rainforests of Central Africa in the Democratic Republic of Congo. With giraffes, you see them in the savanna, in open areas, some trees around, but the giraffes have these really tall, long necks so that they can reach the tops of the trees in their habitat. Whereas okapi, they're only about 5 to 6 feet tall at the shoulder. Females are a little bit bigger than males. And that makes it much easier for them to walk through the forest, because if you're tall walking through the forest, it makes it much more difficult. When I've been to Congo a few times walking through the forest to set up our camera traps, it's been incredibly difficult for me as a person who is 6'3" tall. It's very difficult for me to walk through the forest. But for an okapi, it's actually much easier because they're a little bit shorter. And so they live in the dense rainforests of Central Africa, and only in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. And this country is arguably the most biodiverse country on the continent. And what that means is that there's so many different species of animals, plants, and just there's an incredible amount of biodiversity, different types of species living in one place. It's a really incredible place to be if you ever get the chance to visit. But to get there, it's very remote. So this is a video I took on one of our little tiny puddle jumper planes. The plane only took about 5 people. There was only room for 5 of us. And so it takes about 3 days for me to get to our research location in the middle of the rainforest. I have to cross the Atlantic Ocean, have a layover in Europe, then fly to Africa, spend the night, do a little driving, do a little flying, do a little driving, do a little more flying until we finally make it after 3 days of traveling. But one of my favorite parts is right when we enter the reserve where we work. It's a protected area that I'll get into later. Is once you enter the reserve, you see this vast skyline of just an incredible dense rainforest. And it's an incredible sight to see. It's the coolest thing ever. And so this rainforest is a closed canopy rainforest. And what that means is that the trees and the canopy of the trees are so dense that very little light actually comes through and reaches to the understory where the Okapi live. And so this is a video from our camera trap. This is a female Okapi. And you can see as she gets just 10 feet, 2 meters into the forest and she stands still, she disappears in the foliage. They are experts at camouflage. And because of this, even though they've been known to exist for several millennia, that's thousands of years by the local people, they were only discovered by Western scientists in 1901. They were the last major mammal discovered by scientists because they have such a secretive nature. And so part of the secret of nature, that's one of the things they're known for. They are very reclusive, they hide, they're a prey species. And so they're always trying to avoid their main predator. And so here is an Okapi calf, just born. And so when an Okapi is born, they're like a miniature version of an adult. They look just like an adult, but in miniature form. They have the stripes. They have the same brown chocolatey color fur. And so when an Okapi is born, they hide and find a nest. And typically that's between buttress roots of a tree. Here's an example of a tree with buttress roots, these very tall wall-like roots. And so the Okapi calf will nestle itself in between the buttress roots and actually stay there for several weeks. And so it only leaves the nest to feed from its mother. But one of the most interesting characteristics is that the Okapi mother never actually goes to the nest. What she does is she goes off and does her thing in the forest. She's eating, wandering around, doing her thing. And so she'll actually communicate with the calf through infrasound. And what that means is that she sends sound waves through her body into the ground. And it's all below human hearing and below the hearing of their predators. And so when the Okapi calf hears this call, it will come out between its nest and the buttress roots, come nurse from mom, and then go back into the buttress roots to stay in its safe place. And so they hide in this. They hide in the buttress roots. They communicate through infrasound. And they're very good at camouflage, and this is all to avoid their main predator. But one of the coolest, most interesting facts about Okapi calves is their poop. So Okapi calves, another strategy to avoid their main predator of leopards is the fact that they will not poop for up to the first 60 days of their life. That's a full 2 months of not pooping. And when they don't poop, it's thought to make sure that they're not leaving that scent for leopards to find and prey on these young Okapi calves. Here's a quick video of a leopard. They're very stealthy. And so all of these strategies are to avoid leopards. Occasionally, leopards do attack okapi. Typically with adult okapi, they're much more difficult for leopards to take down because okapi are really strong. They're almost the size of a horse. I don't know if anyone works with horses, or if anyone's familiar with horses, but horses can give a very good, strong kick, and so can okapi. But also, if a leopard were to ever attack an okapi adult, the adult just puts its head down and runs straight through the forest, and the leaves and the branches actually rip the leopard off of the okapi. So they try to avoid leopards at all costs. And so if they're successful, once the youngster is old enough and able to run and keep up with mom, the youngster will start following mom around after the first 2 or 3 months of its life. So it stays in that nest for a full 2 or 3 months, and then afterward, it'll start following mom around. And this camera trap footage was the very first footage of an okapi calf in the wild that's ever been filmed. So we were really excited and lucky to collect that footage. So why are okapi endangered? That's the big question. Mainly, it's loss of habitat or deforestation in their case in particular. They need large, undisturbed tracts of rainforest in order to survive, to eat. They eat over 100 different species of plants in this rainforest, and they are incredible browsers, just munching on leaves as they walk through the forest. So they need that forest to live. And so threats to the forest throughout their range, the main threat is slash and burn farming. And so what that is cutting down a plot of land, so cutting down trees to plant your crops. And then the next year you'll do the same thing. And so you're slowly creeping in to the rainforest and cutting down rainforest, and you're slowly taking away okapi habitat. That's what slash and burn farming is. Another big issue that they're facing is gold mining in their region. A lot of mining in general, but in the reserve, it's particularly gold mining, gold and diamond mining. And then in other parts of their range, it's coltan mining, which I'll get into at the very, very end of our presentation. But gold mining is a big threat in the reserve. So these the soil is rich with all of these minerals and gold and diamonds. And so people will actually come in and cut down trees and start digging around, collecting gold as a source of income to pay for bills, school, healthcare, that sort of thing. And then another big issue is poaching. And okapi aren't targeted, at least in the reserve. In other parts of their range, they are targeted. We're getting some reports that okapi are being poached. But primarily, the presence of poaching for monkeys and elephants, okapi get caught in the crossfire. So these monkeys and elephants are being poached illegally, but okapi are also getting caught in the crossfire or getting caught in snares and really having an issue with the presence of poachers. And so the Okapi Conservation Project was created in 1987. That was 34 years ago. June will be 34 years since we started. That's actually older than me. I'm 33, if you were wondering. But we were started in the northeastern part of DR Congo, the Democratic Republic of Congo. So in the left, you can see where the country is. It's smack dab in the center of the continent of Africa, DRC, you'll see there. And the green, that's all rainforest, and especially the dark green on the left. And so when you zoom into the country on the right, you'll see the Okapi Wildlife Reserve in green. It's in that red box. The orange area, that's the okapi habitat where okapi are found. And so we were started in 1987. And then 5 years later, in 1992, we helped found the Okapi the Okapi Wildlife Reserve, which is that green space in the middle of that red box. And that's to protect a protected area to make sure the okapi had a protected habitat to live and thrive. And so here is a majority of our staff. The reserve is half the size of New Jersey. It's right under 14,000 square kilometers. And so that's a really big area to cover. And so it's very rare that we get a lot of our staff together for one photo. And this still isn't everyone. This is from 2019. But we have 5 different locations around the reserve that we work in order to work with communities and ensure that their habitat remains, the Okapi habitat remains protected. And so those 3 threats that I talked about earlier, slash and burn farming, gold mining, and poaching, we have different programs that address these specific threats. And so in the top left, you'll see ICCN Rangers, which is the Institute in Congo for the Conservation of Nature. It's their department that actually works to protect all of the protected areas in the country. And so what that means is they're armed. And they work to ensure that the animals and plants have a place to live and thrive in all of these protected areas. So we work in close partnership with the government of the Democratic Republic of Congo by way of ICCN. And they address many of the issues firsthand. So they are the ones that go in and arrest poachers, they remove snares, they remove gold miners. And they're kind of at the forefront of the protection, risking their lives every day, because a lot of these people are armed. And so they're risking their lives in order to protect Okapi. So we work very closely with them and support them in their endeavors. And then we have a bunch of programs that support alternative livelihoods. And what that means is that we're trying to help people find other sources of income to support their families that are sustainable, that protect the rainforest at the same time, so that they aren't tempted or they don't have to be involved in illegal activities in order to support their families. And so one of those is agroforestry. So we implement and share a bunch of techniques on how to lengthen the life of your soil. A lot of techniques that you'll find common in the United States or in Canada or any other agriculture areas where we have advanced practices in agriculture. We work with them to supply seeds, alternative fertilizers, natural fertilizers, nitrogen fixing trees, that sort of thing, in order to lengthen the life of the soil so that when they can keep the same plot of land year after year and do crop rotation if needed, use the same plot of land year after year so they don't have to cut down a new plot of land each year and further reach into the rainforest, so that by staying at this one plot of land every year, they're in effect protecting Okapi habitat because they're not intruding into the Okapi habitat. We also work a lot with women because women are some of the strongest voices in the community. And we want to empower women to support their families through alternative sources of income generation. So all different ways of making money. And so we provide these different opportunities for them to develop their skills, develop their capacity to make items to sell in the markets and potentially sell overseas. That's what we're working on now, to generate income for their families so they don't have to be involved in any sort of illegal activities. And then a third component that we do is a lot of conservation education. We work very closely with all of the schools in and around the Okapi Wildlife Reserve. There's about 35,000 kids that go to school around the Okapi Wildlife Reserve. And we work really closely with teachers to develop educational programming on the importance of protecting the rainforest habitat, the importance of human health, and the health of nature. That's a very big topic now with COVID-19. And how human health directly relates to the health of the environment. And then we do a lot of radio programming because no one in this, it's so remote, no one has TVs, but everyone has a radio. So a lot of our broadcasts are actually shared via radio. And we record interviews and talk with a lot of the officials and the conservationists in the area to help share and spread the news of protecting Okapi. And so here's a photo of me with some of our staff and ICCN Rangers. We monitor the health of the Okapi population through camera traps. So you can see right in front of me on that tree, there's a little camera trap. And these are motion sensing cameras that if something moves in front of it, it'll take a picture or a video. And so that's where I've gotten a lot of the Okapi videos that I've shared earlier in this presentation. But we set them up to get an idea of where Okapi are, how often they're visiting, some of their home ranges, and we're looking to do a lot more research through camera traps in the coming years to really get a better idea of what's going on with Okapi. And so I just wanted, because everyone loves photos and videos of animals, of course I have to share a lot of our camera trap videos. So this, we went on a camera trap expedition to an area called Mewa. We call it an Edo in Congo. Some people in the United States and Canada might call it a glade or a meadow. It's a natural clearing in the forest. So it's an open space. It's natural in the forest, and animals tend to congregate there to collect any minerals or access water or plants that like the sun. So they access all of these areas in this clearing. So we set an expedition there and we collected a lot of incredible footage. Here's a female Okapi. You can see that she doesn't have ossicones, walking just casually. That's typically what Okapi do. They're very calm, very quiet animals. Typically, you'll see them on our camera traps just walking slowly, nomming or eating on a leaf here, a twig there, and they just move very, very calmly and casually. We also get a bunch of other animals. Here's some bongo, which share the same habitat. A lot of zoos around the world actually have bongo. So if you've had the opportunity to go to a zoo, you might have seen bongo. That one in the front is a young bongo because it has that little mane on the back. We also get a lot of videos of forest buffalo. You do not want to encounter these in the forest. It's a bit terrifying. You can see the big male on the left there. He's a little bit darker in color. And that's his harem of female and youngsters. And then I love this video. We do get a lot of videos of forest elephants. It's a little scary, but once you learn to appreciate elephants, this video is incredible. You can just see how curious it is. And look at those long eyelashes and the really long, coarse hairs on its trunk. Those are very, very sensitive hairs. And so a lot of our work comes around celebrating Okapi, in particular on World Okapi Day on October 28th. And so at the beginning of the presentation, I said that everyone in the Democratic Republic of Congo knows what an Okapi is, but not many people outside of Congo know what an Okapi is. Everyone in Congo knows what an Okapi is because everything is named after an Okapi. It's their symbol of conservation. It's almost like their national animal, kind of like we have in the United States, at least. I know I have a big audience from the United States. I know we also have a big audience from Canada today. And I heard one from Norway. But in the United States, we have the bald eagle on everything. In Congo, the Okapi is on everything. Okapi gum, Okapi bottled water, Okapi logistics. The radio station, the main radio station is called Radio Okapi. There's even Okapi cigarettes, which I don't recommend doing. But everyone knows what an Okapi is. So we want to bring this celebration, this excitement around Okapi to the local people and tell them that we need to work together to save their habitat. But World Okapi Day is also celebrated around the world to bring awareness to Okapi and teach people about Okapi because so many people don't know what an Okapi is. And so I want to end the presentation with how you can help Okapi. Everyone always wants to know how they can help Okapi. It's not like you can really, it's difficult to travel to the Democratic Republic of Congo. In our area, it's not really safe. There's a lot of security issues in Eastern Congo that it's kind of known for that I don't want to get into the specific details in the presentation. That can take much longer. But what we recommend that you can do is you can visit your nearest zoo with Okapi. I know several Okapi or several zoos in the United States, several zoos around Europe have Okapi at their facility. 85% of zoos around the world that have Okapi directly support our work to protect Okapi in the wild. So by visiting the zoo, with Okapi, you are helping support our project in our work protecting the wild Okapi in the Democratic Republic of Congo. We also recommend that you recycle your old cell phones and electronics. If you're upgrading to a new phone, which I hope you wait until the last second to do, I always do. When you upgrade your phone, you have to do something with your old phone. Well, there's a mineral in every single cell phone and every laptop or tablet. That mineral is mined in Okapi habitat. That mineral is called coltan, and that is a critical mineral that's used in cell phones, in laptops, in tablets. So by recycling your old cell phones and electronics, you're reducing the demand needed to mine in Okapi habitat. We also recommend that you could host a fundraiser through your class to donate to our work. We've had kids do lemonade stands, bake sales, asking their friends and family for support. We have so many programs that could fit your interests, whether your interest is agroforestry or empowering women or helping kids or just helping Okapi in general. If you have an interest, we can develop a program that you can help support. And then the biggest thing, and this is the easiest thing with no investment, is telling your friends and family about Okapi. That's the easiest thing that you can do now, especially if you don't have jobs to make money. But telling your friends and family and just being excited about Okapi, telling them all the cool facts that you learned from me today. And that will be one step closer to generating some excitement and support from the people around the world. Because right now, our biggest hurdle from people around the world is that they don't know about Okapi. And how is someone going to support or be interested in saving an animal if they don't know about it? So that's the biggest thing that you can do for us, is tell your friends and family, host fundraisers, recycle your old phones and electronics, and visit your nearest zoo with Okapi. And so I want to end the presentation with just a peaceful video of a female, no ossicones, Okapi, just casually sniffing around, eating a leaf here or there, enjoying her life. And with that, I'm finished. Hopefully that was good. Hopefully
that was amazing, Lucas. And
excellent.
I love the moment of Zen to wrap it up
yes.
with. Add that into all our presentations.
I feel like I always need to calm myself down because I get too excited talking about Okapi, and that moment of Zen kind of helps bring me back.
The best problem to have to be that excited. And I mean, we have a huge audience that's excited as well. In addition to our 7 live classes, we've got at least 7 more on YouTube. So 350 kids from where we got today: Alabama, Texas, Louisiana, California, New York, Michigan, BC, Ontario, and more. So welcome.
Excellent. Excellent. Welcome.
So exciting.
I'm so happy that I have a worldwide audience.
You do. We've got thousands of miles covered.
Yes.
So let's dive in with some questions, guys. We've got our live groups. I'm going to start with Salinas' class. They're joining us in Canada and Ontario.
Okay.
I'm going to unmute your mic, guys, and come on in. You are good to go. Hey, Miss Salinas' group. So nice to see kids in a classroom. It's like,
yes.
Everybody's got a question.
Hello.
Guys.
All right, we have one from Victoria. Go ahead, Victoria.
Okay.
How do you know if an Okapi is a girl or a boy if it got poached?
How do you know if an Okapi is a boy or a girl if it got poached? Well, that's pretty simple for me. One is whether or not it has ossicones. So if an Okapi has ossicones, if a poached Okapi has ossicones, the 2 horns on its head, that means it's a male. If it doesn't have them, then that means it's a female. So it's a pretty easy tell. Yes.
Great question, guys. I brought up the spelling. We've got a lot of creative.
Oh, yeah. S-I-C-O-N-E-S.
See ossicones. There you go, guys. Great question. Miss Becker's class, they're joining us in lovely San Diego. If you want to unmute your mic and come on in, go for it. Hey.
Hi, good morning. Thank
Hello.
you so much once again. And we would like to know, how did you get interested in this, since they're very rare? And what was your path to this fascinating animal?
Of course. So it's mixed feelings. Like, I love talking about myself, but then I also don't like talking about myself. Growing up, I was always in nature. I grew up with a creek in my backyard, and I loved being outside in nature with animals, plants, just always catching frogs, turtles, snakes, that sort of thing. And then I went to college and I studied biology and marine science. And once I graduated, I started working at the Jacksonville Zoo and Gardens in Jacksonville, Florida. And from there, I kind of furthered my love of animals, of course. I mean, if I devoted my degree to it, then obviously I wanted to work with animals. But then the Okapi thing kind of fell in my lap because the founder of the Okapi Conservation Project, whose name is John Lucas, his last name is my first name. It creates a lot of confusion. He was working at the Jacksonville Zoo and Gardens, doing the Okapi Conservation Project, running it from there. And so I just got to know him, and I told him that I was interested in supporting, and that's kind of how it's been for the past, it'll be 5 years in May that I've been doing this.
Wow, very, very cool. I love when we get those questions about sort of the backdrop thing. I think it's important for kids to hear that, you know, not everyone is direct to one thing. There's so many different roles in conservation that people can take. So
yeah, absolutely. Well, and I mean, you can take different paths to go to conservation, because I actually worked in fundraising and development before that, and then marketing and public relations and event planning. And so I did all of that stuff before I actually came to do conservation work. So I kind of took a roundabout way to get here, but I finally made it.
We are sure happy you did. It's been a fantastic presentation today. Ms. Ardenelli's class, they ended up watching on YouTube because they had a little bit of trouble with Zoom. So they're joining us in California, and they want to know how fleet-footed Okapi are. How fast can they run, Lucas?
Oh gosh, that's a good question. I don't know if I know that answer. And I guess it depends on how dense the forest is. But I guess if they're oh gosh, I don't know. I don't know that answer. I feel like I need to research that. But I do have several videos of them being spooked on camera trap, of them running away. Something happened in the forest, and they came sprinting by the camera trap. I do not know the answer to that question. I need to look that up.
The world's fastest Google search says 37 miles per hour.
Thank you. I will add that to my... We need to convert that to kilometers per hour, because I know...
60 kilometers. So you're driving around on a normal road in Canada on like sort of a main street. It's 60 kilometers. That's about how fast Okapi can run.
Okay.
So you're into the... Yeah.
60 kilometers.
Speaking of Canada, let's go to Mr. Shattuck's class. I know you guys had some tech difficulties today, so they shared some questions in the chat bar. Connor wants to know what's the oldest Okapi you found would be and how old they would live to.
I love this question because the oldest Okapi known to humans at the moment is Romakari, Romakari. And he is housed at White Oak Conservation Center in Yulee, Florida. It's about 45 minutes north from my house. And I had a photo of him in my presentation, but I took him out before this. But I do meet him, I would say once or twice a year. He is 31 years old, and his birthday is November 21st.
That's an adorable answer.
And I remember his birthday because his birthday is the same birthday as my mom.
Nice. That's very sweet. Which one do you celebrate more now as an Okapi guy?
I celebrate my mom's birthday more still.
Perfect. I think that's a practical answer in case she's watching.
Yeah.
Miss McMahon's class, they're joining us in Welland, Ontario. Come on in, guys, if you have a question for us. Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Hello.
If the Okapi go extinct, how will that impact the rest of the rainforest?
Yeah.
That's a good question. And so Okapi are, there's a lot of need to research around this, but one of the difficult things, which I didn't touch on a lot, is the insecurity in the region. A lot of research can't be done in the region just because it's not safe. Going into the forest, you saw the photo of me with camera traps and the armed guards. Every time we go into the forest, we have to have armed people because we don't know who we're going to encounter in the forest. So there's a critical lack of research in this area, but there's several theories on the impact that they would have. So Okapi are browsers, and they kind of go along a line and they browse from leaf to leaf. And so it helps plants bush out a lot more. Their feces help provide fertilizer because they're ruminants, so they quickly digest a lot of, or not quickly, it takes a while for them to digest, but when they pass all of their feces, that acts as fertilizer for the plants growing around them. And they could also be seed dispersers. So there's a lot of theories that would happen, but right now there's a critical lack of research, and that's due to safety reasons. And so once if it ever does get safe, we're planning to do a lot more research on the biggest impact that they would have if they are lost.
Yeah, that's a very good answer. And I mean, a lot of concrete examples of why they're important, but I think the main one, and as a biologist, someone who studies this, who's involved with this, the main reason is the world would be that much less rich without.
And I mean, I think one of the biggest things that I didn't even mention in my answer is the cultural importance of Okapi, because everything I mentioned in the very end of my presentation is how the Okapi is on everything. It is the symbol of Congo. It's on everything. And so if the Okapi were to be lost, how does that impact their culture? How does that impact them and their beliefs and their hope for the future? So I think that's one of the most critical losses if we were to lose Okapi, is the cultural aspect.
Yeah. I mean, the loss of biodiversity is something that we cover a lot at Exploring by Japan. So you mentioned all those great ways that classrooms could take part in protecting them. But I mean, what an amazing animal. We all got the chance to talk about them today. The feedback was amazing. And I mean, they're incredible. They're worth protecting for so many reasons. Yeah.
By
the way, on the note of a national animal, I want to stress for our American friends, I know the bald eagle is your animal, but we have 10 times.
You have so many more. You have so many more. Yeah.
Miss Cottrell's class, they're joining us in Baldwinsville, New York. I know we didn't get a chance to test ahead of time, but if you want to unmute your mic, you can take a question. Go for it. Hey, guys.
I don't know if you can see us because we're a remote trade class.
We can hear you, though, just fine. Yeah.
But you can't see anything, right?
Yep.
Oh, okay. Go ahead, Kaylee. Ask your question.
Hey, Kaylee.
How many predators do the Okapi have, and what are they?
So I talked about it a little bit, but really the only natural predator that Okapi have is the leopard. And so that I talked a little bit about that, but I think now, because we are getting some reports on Okapi being poached in other parts of their range, I would venture to say sometimes humans too. We don't really know what happens if they're eating the meat. I know that their skin and their fur are worth a lot of money on the black market, but their main natural predator is just leopards, and I guess now humans.
Great question, guys. All right, we got 8 minutes to go. We got a whole bunch of questions on YouTube. I'm going to take a few of those and come back to the live classes in a minute. So by the way, I want to share this just for you, Lucas. This is from one of our YouTube viewers. Okapi are my new.
Yes, that's my goal.
Awesome.
The coolest animal you've never heard of.
This first class, they're joining us in Houston, and they want to know the stuffed animal, but the stuffed Okapi. Did you buy that? Like, would that contribute to the work you're doing? How did you end up with the stuffed guy?
I got that one. What one is that one? Okay. I got that one actually as a gift from a donor to Okapi Conservation Project. You can typically, we don't sell any online, but we should, especially after that question. But I know that you can get them from zoos that have Okapi, or I think World Wildlife Fund also sells World Wildlife Fund sells Okapi online. But I recommend going to your local zoo if you have that option to go to a local zoo that has Okapi. I bet they have an Okapi plush animal. I actually know a lot about plush animals because there were 3 main companies that we were searching to get Okapi from. One of them was two Okapi designs were discontinued. And I think this is the one Okapi design that's left. I guess they weren't selling enough. I don't know.
The primo ultimate Okapi design.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned zoos, and this is a really good question, again, from another group. Diego wanted to know in Mr. Kansas class, do they end up in zoos? Do they catch them in the wild to bring them to zoos? If so, how do they end up there?
So this is actually, this is a fantastic question and one of my favorite questions because I didn't get into it on our presentation. So now Okapi are a part of what are called breeding programs. And so it's kind of like, the simplistic version is kind of like ancestry.com and match.com, where there's a group of experts that actually recommend which Okapi are going to breed, which Okapi should or are recommended to breed. There's so many hurdles to get over with, but they'll make a breeding recommendation. This male Okapi needs to breed with this female Okapi because of their specific genetics. And so the issue with animals in human care at zoos is you do not want any sort of inbreeding, because then that creates a lot of genetic issues. So you want to maintain that genetic diversity. And so this expert group of people will recommend that this male Okapi needs to breed with this female okapi. Hopefully that they'll be able to arrange transport, and hopefully that they'll be successful in breeding. Hopefully they get along. But originally, when our project started in 1987, there was an issue with inbreeding in zoos across the world. And so part of our job in 1987 was to export 3 okapi, wild-caught okapi, into the United States to bring in new genetic lines to this captive population. I think the last one was sent in 1992. One of them was Romakari. I think Romakari was sent in 1991, I believe. 1991 or 1990, I forget. But yes, he was one of those animals that was imported from Ipulu in Congo. But since 1992, we have not done any wild capture and export into the United States. Right now, it's just kind of all sustained through these breeding programs. Same thing in Europe. Europe has the same setup with in the US, in other Association of Zoos and Aquariums institutions, even in Canada, and I think Singapore and Mexico, and it's called the SSP, the Species Survival Plan. And then in Europe, it's called the EEP, the European Endangered Species Program or something. I forget what it stands for, but it's the same structure.
Yeah. I love that you mentioned Species Survival Plan. I was going to bring that up as a banner, but I do want to note for all our classes, whether it's Okapi you're interested in or any other animals, look for AZA in the United States and AZA in Canada. And that means the zoo or aquarium is at like the highest standards of animals. Yep. They're not catching wild-caught things when they're endangered. Their breeding program, really great conservation work. So if you go to groups that have that accreditation, it means you're at a really great place. Stuff for animals. We're going to take one more question from YouTube, and then we're going to wrap up with a couple with our live groups. Okay. Sydney, a 3rd grader in North Hollywood, Mr. Pettix's class, are Okapi dangerous? In the woods.
Yes and no. That's an interesting question. Yes and no, and it depends on the okapi. I guess just depends on people too. So if do not make an okapi mad at all, because they will use their ossicones as defense. So they'll swing their head and jam their ossicones. I've seen some of them break off before. They also kick really hard. You do not want that to happen. I'm sure several leopards in the wild have had that happen to them. But at the same time, okapi are very gentle too. Depending on the okapi again, and depending on what time of year. If they're in kind of a breeding mode, you probably don't want to be around them. But if they're very calm and it's in the non-breeding season, they can generally be calm. And so in a lot of zoos and aquariums around the world, we have terms called no contact or full contact, where that indicates whether a keeper, their keeper that's caring for the animal, can go into the exhibit with the animal, or they have to have a protective barrier between them and the animal at all times. And okapi are kind of back and forth, and it depends on the individual and the zoo. So there's one okapi at Jacksonville that we can go in the same space with, but there's some okapi at other institutions that you can't go in the same space with. So that it kind of goes back and forth, and it depends on the okapi.
Yeah, when we do polar bear programs, it's a universal no contact.
Yes, that is a universal no contact. Polar bears, elephants, yeah.
We've got time for a few more questions. I'm going to sort of take them at random from some of our classes. So Miss Salinas' class, I know you typed one in the chat bar, and then I'll wrap up with Miss Becker in just a minute. So Miss Salinas, come on in and go for it, guys. Let's unmute that mic, and we are all set. Hello, everybody.
Hi, I think the question in the chat was, why are okapi smaller than giraffes, even though they're related?
Yeah.
And why do they only have the stripes on their legs and their butts?
Okay, so for the height difference, I think there's theories around it. I don't know if it's fully been proven, and I don't know how they would fully prove it. But the idea and the theory behind it is that because they're living in the forest, they don't have to reach high up to access their food source, because they're feeding on the bushes that are kind of chest high, so they don't need to evolve long necks to access any sort of food sources. I do want to say that okapi, if talking about evolution, okapi evolved first. They're technically an older species, evolutionarily speaking, than giraffes. Giraffes evolved to have long necks, whereas Okapi have maintained pretty consistent evolutionary traits by living in the forest. So they don't need to grow long necks. They don't need to evolve long necks to access their food source. And then the stripes, there's several theories about that. One, scientists think that it could aid in their camouflage. So when the dappled light comes through the leaves and the trees, the stripes help break up their pattern. And usually when you see an okapi, it's walking away from you. That's why they're thought to be on the backside. Just like if you have seen footage or videos or pictures of tigers in grass or anything that helps, or leopards or anything in a tree or something like that, their coat patterns help break up their shape to kind of make it difficult for predators to see. But then there's also a theory floating around there that the stripes are used as follow me stripes for the calves to follow the mothers. And so that kind of helps give them a visual indicator that there is mom, I need to follow mom. One thing that I would like to add is that the stripe pattern on each okapi is individual. So it's individually unique, just like our fingerprints, just like zebra stripes, just like tiger stripes, just like our footprints, just like our fingerprints. Every okapi stripe pattern is individually unique. And so we can actually tell specific okapi individuals on our camera traps if we're seeing the same ones over and over again.
How cool is that? I wonder if that was the case. I'm glad we got a stripe question.
Yep.
Miss Becker's class, we're going to come to you. I know we've got some other classes with questions, and what I'd love you guys to do is email them to me. I'll make sure Lucas gets them. We can get them for you guys soon. But Miss Becker, if you want to wrap us up, come on in and go for it. There you go.
There we go. One last question, revolving, because it's almost lunchtime for us. How much food do okapis need to eat daily? And do they browse all day long?
Yeah, they pretty much browse all day long. They eat nonstop. They eat and sleep, eat, poop, and sleep, just like babies. But they will eat around 65 up to 65 pounds of leaves a day. That's about 30 kilos, 30 kilograms of food leaves per day. It's about 100 different species. They'll also eat some fruits. They'll eat some mushrooms. They also eat a lot of charcoal or clay because they'll eat a lot of poisonous plants. Wow. And so by eating the charcoal from lightning strikes, if a lightning strikes a tree in the rainforest, there's those thunderstorms. I live in Florida. We have a lot of thunderstorms. The thunderstorms in Africa are to a whole nother level. If you've ever seen Jumanji, that thunderstorm in there, that's very reminiscent of it. You can't sleep during it. But from the lightning strikes, the charcoal, the charred wood, they'll eat the charcoal and also nearby clay or mud because that helps absorb the toxins from the poisonous plants. But yeah, they'll eat about 30 kilos or 65 pounds a day, munching all day.
So that is how they reach those hypothetical speeds of 37 miles an hour.
Yes.
But I love that you mentioned that. I don't think we've ever had a broadcast where someone's mentioned eating charcoal or clay. So that is very cool. I want all our classes to look that up. Is it just
yeah. A lot of birds do it too. Birds eat charcoal and clay. Yeah.
Monkeys and dolphins will get medicinal plants and things in the ocean to help themselves with diet. It's very, very cool.
If there's a nutrient or mineral that they're lacking in their diet, they'll find some way to get it.
Yeah. Very cool. Look, this has been so much fun. I want to wrap by saying to our classes, if you guys want to learn more about the amazing work Lucas and his team are doing, check out okapiconservation.org. Amazing stuff there. You can donate to their cause, help us support Okapi Conservation, learn more, all this great stuff. I want to say a huge thank you to all our groups live and on YouTube for joining in today. And what we do at the end of every broadcast, Lucas, I know a few of our groups have gone to lunch, but I'm going to bring in our groups that are left to say a big thank you and goodbye for joining us today. So Miss Becker, Mr. Shattuck, and Miss McMahon's class, thank you guys so much. Lucas, thank you so much.